that is the information they're sifting through. I'm not alleging any wrongdoing. I'm just saying that people who make cases for a living and do it carefully and thoroughly and judiciously say that this case appears to be a pretty significant one.
Do we know how it came to be, whether it was the Justice Department just deciding to look into Gavin Newsom and those around him, or if it was a more organic occurrence? Carol?
Absolutely critical question, and the one that I'm trying to answer right now, which perhaps the FOIA could help with if they aren't able to cite an ongoing case, which of course they will cite an ongoing case to avoid answering this FOIA. We need to know the timeline. Did the evidence involving Gavin Newsom's wife, which sources are citing to me now, did that come to them in the course of their investigation, say, of Gavin Newsom's chief of staff or other staff? In other words, did they start with evidence of potential wrongdoing, or did they start with a target list and find evidence of potential wrongdoing? That's the critical question. We don't know the answer to that yet. All we do know is the evidence that's been amassed to date, and there have been numerous interviews, tons of records gathered, is considered compelling by career professionals.
And let me ask you, Carol, while I have you, about KASH Patel. This morning, he posted on X about a threat to the UFC event on Sunday. He said this: on June 10th, FBI and our law enforcement partners became aware of a potential threat to the UFC America 250 event in Washington involving individuals outside of the National Capital Region. And thanks to the rapid action of this FBI, our partners, and the Department of Justice in a multi-state operation, multiple individuals are now in custody, and allegedly planned attacks were stopped cold. What else do you have on this?
So KASH Patel has a history. The FBI director has a trend, if you will, Katie, of announcing things a little prematurely on social media and on X. And this is, according to our sources, another example. KASH Patel made this public posting about this investigation when it was both sealed in court documents, meaning not open to the public, and also considered an ongoing probe where multiple suspects had not been yet arrested and taken into custody. This worried the Secret Service significantly. The Secret Service began this investigation and, of course, was joining with the FBI, partnering with the FBI on this probe, and figured out from actually a relative of one of the suspects in Cincinnati, I'm told by a source, that a person, this relative, was plotting something. And that's how this whole investigation began. But Patel's announcement on Tuesday morning, this morning, struck Secret Service officials cold. They could not believe that the FBI director chose to discuss an ongoing case that all of the partners on this investigation had decided to keep mum about it because it's sealed, legally sealed in court, or was until sometime today, and also that it was ongoing with suspects still sort of in the wind, if you will.
Hi there, everyone. It's 4 o'clock in the East. The desire to create a slush fund to reward political loyalists doesn't appear to start and stop with Donald J. Trump. Shocking new reporting by MS Now's Ken Delanian finds that embattled FBI Director KASH Patel stands accused of using more than $1 million in taxpayer funds to reward the FBI agents who went after Patel's enemies and who covered up KASH Patel's misbehavior in office, weakening our nation's chief law enforcement agency in the process. Our Ken Delanian reports this about a letter that ranking member of the House Judiciary Committee, Congressman Jamie Raskin, sent to KASH Patel. It reads, quote, "The letter says the money went to special agents serving on his director's advisory team, which Raskin's letter describes as, quote, a curated group of agents who are willing to carry out your unlawful partisan and personal orders. It went to agents on Patel's security detail, quote, circumventing the mandatory maximum pay caps established by statute. By issuing these side payments, your office may be knowingly breaking the federal law," the letter says. In some cases, nearly 8,000 payments have been made to multiple Nearly $8,000 payments have been made to multiple individuals every 2-week pay period, despite many of the beneficiaries of your selective generosity already maxing out on a federal employee's salary. The letter goes on to say it is unclear exactly how much each of the agents has received, but adds this, quote, "We can confirm that numerous Loyalist employees have received at least 5 such payments in consecutive pay periods, amounting to nearly $40,000 per agent. We can also confirm you have depleted this reserve at such a frenzied rate that some of the payments have bounced back from exhausted accounts." Here's more from that stunning letter from Congressman Jamie Raskin. Quote, "We know the agents on your director's advisory team, perhaps better known as the Payback Squad, given their reported willingness to pursue political targets and overlook pesky legal obstacles like probable cause, have received a significant amount of these funds. These Payback Squad lieutenants have repaid your corrupt generosity by polygraphing FBI employees, including members of your security detail and information technology personnel suspected of not fully participating in the cover-up of your excessive drinking habits and erratic behavior, such as the famous episode in which you locked yourself out of your computer, panicked, and then told staff and allies that you had been fired. For their part, the agents on your security detail have also witnessed your indiscretions when joining you on date nights and bro trips alike. It is not clear whether these bonus payments have simply been a corrupt attempt to slide cash to friends or whether they are also meant to ensure the silence of the agents who witnessed your inebriation and accompanying professional negligence and misconduct. Either way, these freelance awards appear to constitute gross mismanagement of public funds and an abuse of authority by the director's office. The FBI has not responded to MS Now's request for comment on Congressman Raskin's letter, but it is just the latest episode that raises new alarms about Kash Patel's conduct and willingness to upend the FBI for his personal purposes. Kash Patel has hollowed out the FBI. He has repeatedly fired agents in key security positions for political purposes, a series of purges which Ken Delanian has called, quote, "without precedent in the modern history of the Bureau." Yet another member of the Trump administration weaponizing his position and putting Donald Trump's agenda and his own grievances ahead of our country's security is where we begin today with some of our favorite reporters and friends. The aforementioned Justice and Intelligence reporter Ken Delanian joins us. Also joining us, former Assistant Special Agent in Charge at the FBI, our National Security and Intelligence Analyst Michael Feinberg. Ken Delanian, it's an incredible piece of reporting on your part. It's an incredible letter on Congressman Raskin's part. It's probably an obvious question, but can you surmise if it's a whistleblower? I mean, it reads like someone from the inside has provided some sort of accounting of cash payments.
Yeah, that's absolutely right, Nicole. They didn't use the term whistleblower. The House Democrats didn't, but that's certainly how it appears that they got some information. And, of course, in the letter, they demand a series of documents and disclosures related to these payments, which they're not going to get unless and until they win back the House and next year start issuing subpoenas. And it's going to be really interesting to see how all that unfolds. But this is troubling to Democrats and to probably a lot of people on a lot of levels. I'll just pick the one that jumped out at me. If Kash Patel is awarding $8,000 per paycheck bonuses to agents on his security detail, that's a lot of money for a rank-and-file FBI agent on a government salary. And these are people who have been under the microscope because, according to the Atlantic magazine, just for example, some of them are deeply concerned about Kash Patel's drinking. And Atlantic reported that there have been occasions where they've had trouble waking him up to go to his morning meetings. And on one occasion, they had to get a breaching tool to go into his hotel room, or at least contemplated doing that. Now, he's denied all that. He's sued the Atlantic. They stand by their story. But what Jamie Raskin was wondering and allowed in the letter and raising the question about is this an attempt to keep these folks on side or to silence them or to engender loyalty so that they are not speaking about the things they are seeing on the detail. And these are sworn agents who are obligated to report misconduct that they're aware of, but they're in a horribly difficult position. And if they're getting paid a little bit extra on the side, that just adds to the complexity of this and is really not how government is supposed to work. You know, CEOs may hand out bonuses to their favorite employees, but the director of the FBI is not supposed to do that. And Raskin is also raising the question about whether these payments may be illegal, Nicole.
I mean, $4,000 a week is not just a bonus. I mean, that's an additional salary. Michael Feinberg, your initial reactions, and then we'll dive into the specific allegations here.
Yeah, look, an award system is not foreign to the FBI. It's pretty normal for agents to get cash awards through a variety of mechanisms. The numbers and the frequencies being reported by Ken, however, are highly unusual.
I'm just looking at the pattern we've seen over and over again in Trump world and across right-wing media. The people who survive are the ones who stay out of the spotlight and make Trump look good. The people who get pushed out are the ones who become the story themselves. That's why I wasn't surprised when Tucker Carlson got fired from Fox. In fact, I said days before it happened that he was probably done. He had become too central to the controversy surrounding the election claims. Fox was facing massive legal headaches, and sooner or later someone was going to take the fall. Whether that was fair or not is another debate, but that's how these organizations operate. When the pressure builds, somebody gets sacrificed. And we've seen the same thing repeatedly in Trump's orbit. The people who end up in trouble are usually the ones who either fail to defend Trump effectively or create controversies that distract from him. Sometimes they're handed an impossible assignment. They're expected to justify things that simply can't be justified. Then when they fail, they're blamed for the fallout. Look at the examples. Pam Bondi struggled through difficult questions and became associated with controversies Trump wanted contained. Whether anyone could have handled those situations better is beside the point. Once she became part of the negative story, her position became shaky. The same pattern appeared elsewhere. With Kristi Noem, critics focused less on the underlying policies and more on the perception surrounding her leadership decisions and public image. The controversy wasn't just what happened, it was that she became the center of attention. And that's the danger zone. Because now you look at Kash Patel and what do you see? Headlines, controversies, public feuds, questions about spending, questions about travel, questions about priorities. Instead of talking about Trump's agenda, people are talking about Kash Patel. That's a problem in Trump's political universe. Trump doesn't reward people for building their own brand. He rewards people for helping build his. If someone starts attracting attention for the wrong reasons, or if they're seen as advancing themselves instead of advancing Trump, that relationship can sour very quickly. Whether it's fair or unfair doesn't really matter. The pattern is the pattern. And right now, Patel seems to be walking directly into the same trap that has taken down a lot of other high-profile Trump allies. The more he becomes the story, the more vulnerable he becomes. Because in Trump's world, being the center of attention is only acceptable when Trump is the one standing in the middle of it.